Sailor Moon and Sailor Venus here. And today we're going to talk about, worship on Sailor Moon. Now, at first you might think, oh, well, there wasn't any worship in Sailor Moon. You might think, well, that might be true in the Deke and the CLOVERWAY. They cleaned a lot of those things out and adding that was also worship. But in Toei and Viz's world, worship was there. And they really didn't, they may have not said it, but it was there. Now, at first you might think to yourself, what do you mean? Well, you had two worships that tend to be, that were shown in Sailor Moon. There probably were others. Christendom seemed to be one, and Shintoism, or whatever the English word for that, way of God, may have been another one. Now, you might think, why make a film talking about this? Now, first, you got in Sailor Moon, the first time worship is ever seen, but it's not really talked about, but it's seen is when we first meet Rei Hino, or Sailor Mars, or whatever, because her grandfather and her run a Shintoism worship house. Now, Deke and CLOVERWAY gave it two unlike names, so we call it Green Hill Worship House, Red Hill Worship House, but CLOVERWAY kept the name that Toei gave it. And then later on, after Nephlite dies, and Molly talks with a holy man who happens to be one of the rainbow hearse carriers, or holders, and doesn't know about it. And later on, when Hokusai goes after a holy woman, believing that she has Pegasus in her dream, has the winged horse in her dream somewhere. And yes, it does also come up again, in Sailor Stars. Now, a lot of folks out there might think, why did those two warships get brought up? Well, I guess in Sailor Moon's world, or at least my world, those may be the two biggest ones, I guess. And you might wonder, how did Deke and CLOVERWAY handle it? Well, they just didn't talk about it. And if there was a self on the show that came from that worship, well, they shifted a lot of things around. Like the holy man, and Deke talks about how fighting is a bad thing and we must clean it from our lives. But Toei and Viz had it where, do you believe in God? So do I. I do. Go to your fellow man, your fellow woman. So they shifted, that out. Or they shifted out what the holy woman said when Tiger Eye went after her. She first talks about, how God and Jesus are forgiving and, everyone should, and Tiger's Eye says, yeah, that he does believe in God and Jesus, but this is only to get her so he can look in her dream. But in CLOVERWAY, they shifted it, and he talked about something else. Now, can you go on Sailor Moon? Yeah. Oh, you can, Sailor Venus. So, yeah, they, Deke and CLOVERWAY shifted out what was said, even if they could not clean out what was drawn. And you might think to yourself, well, if they kept away from one worship, how do they handle one worship? How do they handle the other? If that was how they handled Christendom, how do they handle Shintoism? In the same way, they really shifted out the words, They couldn't really do anything. They couldn't really do anything to shift out the drawings, but they shifted out, the words. And you might wonder, why were those two warships the ones shown in Sailor Moon's world? Well, there may have been others, but those were probably the two big warships in Dawnland these days. The old warship, or one of the many old warships, I would say, of Sintudum, known as Way of the God, or Gods, or Way of God, and Christendom, which has, was known as, that was, brought to Dawnland as early as the 8 between 100 YLs. Now, a lot of folks out there might wonder, was these, did it ever come up in the Sailor Moon books? No, from my understanding, none of that happened in the Sailor Moon books. And in the Sailor Moon live show, yes, Christendom and Sintudum were both shown again. So yeah, they just had to shift out what the selves said. That was the only way they could handle it. Because they also felt that worship was something that some folks would not be, happy about. Make a big deal over. So even if they couldn't shift out the drawing, couldn't clean out the drawing, they at least cleaned out what was said. And there may have been other warships in Sailor Moon's world, but they were never talked about or shown. Now you might wonder, what was our worship? Did worship play anything in Sailor Moon? Some folks say, oh no, it's about friendship. But I think it's about friendship and worship and many other things. But our worship never comes up. Whatever we are, whatever our worship is or is not in Sailor Moon's world, it never comes up. Yeah. Back to you, Sailor Moon. You're right, Sailor Venus. I mean, a lot of folks don't know what our worship is. I say I'm a Christendom because I follow Christendom. But I'm guessing that either, the round may have been shifted out for a moon necklace instead. But it is also shown that I do believe in God and Jesus. Believe that or not, but you would have to go into the Toei and Viz's world just to learn that, because it does not come up of what our worship is in Deacon Cloverway's world. And does worship, and a lot of folks say, oh, worship doesn't play a big thing in my world, but I think it does. They're like, oh, it's all about friendship. Well, it's about friendship, and it's also about worship. Even though no one really seems to know everyone's worship, or non-worship, we'll put it that way. But I can make some guesses. Everybody has a belief of, we all know that Sailor Mars is from, Sintudum. But she goes to a learn hall, which is run by a worship house, a Christian worship house. So, yeah. So anyway, it is what it is, Just talking about worship in my world, or at least the two worships that are talked about. And I know other folks from other worships might feel left out. But anyway, that was not my goal. You want to take it away? Yeah, I will, Sailor Moon. Anyway, if you like this film, Sailor Venus says, follow us over here at Sailor Moon for Life. What's the other film we made yesterday over here about the Sailor Moon folkwork? I, Sailor Venus, and I, Sailor Moon, and I'll see you later. Bye.